If you stopped scrolling here, really stopped, not just hesitated, then pause with me now, because most people don't. Most pass this moment without noticing anything unusual. Their attention slides away. Their mind stays busy. Nothing pulls them to stay. But 1 in 7 Aquarius feels a quiet interruption. Not a shock, not excitement. Just a subtle inner pause. And if you're still here, still listening, allowing the silence between these words, this wasn't random. Take a breath. Not to relax, not to prepare, just to mark this moment. You don't need belief. You don't need expectation, just presence. This message doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't demand belief. It arrives the same way clarity does, softly. After resistance has already ended, you didn't come here searching for answers. You came here because something inside you was already quiet enough to listen. And that matters. Aquarius, you've been moving through a subtle internal transition. Not the kind people notice, not the kind you announce, but the kind that changes how you experience things. You may have noticed moments where you would normally react, but don't situations that once felt urgent, now feeling distant, emotions arriving, then leaving without taking hold. This isn't numbness, it's discernment. And discernment often feels unfamiliar at first. You're no longer trying to understand everything emotionally. Instead, you're observing, watching patterns, noticing cycles, recognizing when something has already taught you what it came to teach. That shift alone changes how life responds to you. This reading isn't here to predict something dramatic. It's here to acknowledge something already happening. You're stepping out of over-involvement, and not because you stopped caring, but because you learned where your energy actually belongs. Aquarius energy matures quietly. You don't burn bridges. You don't make scenes. You don't demand closure. You withdraw presence. And that's what's happening now, not suddenly, gradually, naturally. There's a specific area of your life where this is most noticeable. A connection, a role, a responsibility. Something you kept alive longer than it needed to be. Not out of obligation, but out of hope. Hope that effort would eventually be met with balance. And now, that hope has softened into acceptance. Not sadness, acceptance. You're realizing that clarity doesn't always come as an answer. Sometimes it comes as a lack of urgency, and lately, you've felt less pulled to fix, chase, or explain. That's not avoidance. That's wisdom settling in. This message reaches you because you are in a receptive state, not seeking guidance, but open to confirmation. You don't need to be told what to do. You need to be reminded that you're already doing it. As this shift continues, you may notice something subtle in how others respond to you. People may seem unsure how to engage. Some may reach out unexpectedly. Others may fade quietly. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stopped compensating. Energy recalibrates when it's no longer stretched. There's also something important about timing here. Not external timing, internal readiness. You're no longer forcing movement. You're letting things approach you at their own pace. And that changes everything. Aquarius, you're entering a phase where stillness becomes productive. Not passive, not stagnant, but observant. This is where you see clearly who meets you halfway, and who only moved when you carried the weight. That distinction becomes impossible to ignore. You may find yourself valuing silence more. Not isolation, but silence that feels intentional. Moments where you're not filling space with explanation. Moments where you let things remain unresolved. That's not discomfort. That's trust. If this message feels personal without being emotional, precise without being dramatic, that's another confirmation. This reading isn't designed to move you. It's designed to match where you already are. There's a quiet invitation unfolding now. Not to act, not to decide, but to notice. Notice what feels lighter when you stop engaging. Notice what returns when you give space. Notice what doesn't come back at all. Those absences are information. At this point, if you're still listening, you are already part of the group this was meant for. And if you feel drawn to interact, you can leave a single word in the comments. Paused. No story. No context. Just a quiet signal that you were here, fully present, for this moment. As the minutes pass, this message doesn't escalate. It deepens. Because what's aligning with you next doesn't require urgency. It requires availability. And you finally cleared enough internal space to receive it. There's something else worth mentioning. You're becoming more selective. Not out of judgment, but out of self-respect. You're recognizing that not everything deserves access to your thoughts, your time, or your emotional intelligence. That's not withdrawal. That's refinement. This refinement may feel lonely at times. Not because you lack connection, but because you no longer accept shallow exchange. And that temporary quiet is not a loss. It's a recalibration. Aquarius, you're not being asked to let go forcefully. What's leaving is doing so on its own. And what's meant to stay will meet you where you are, without requiring proof, persuasion, or performance. Stay with this message a little longer, not because something shocking is coming, but because your nervous system recognizes this pace, this calm, this absence of pressure. You've reached a point where your intuition no longer whispers. It speaks in stillness, and you're finally listening. This pause, this moment of recognition, this quiet clarity was not random, and deep down, you never thought it was.